Hi, welcome to another edition of Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon, the show that exposes the unfolding world communist revolution. Like the show, share the show, and especially subscribe on Epoch TV. Well, today I'm going to do some basic groundwork. I talk about communist parties all the time, but most Americans have very little understanding of what a communist party is, or how many there are in the United States, or what impact they have. Today I'm going to do a rundown. I'm going to give a list of the main communist organizations in the United States, what they do, and a little bit about their impact. Now I'm going to start with Communist Party USA. This is the premier communist party in the country. It was founded in 1919 in Chicago. It built tremendous strength during World War II. It was over 100,000 members. It had helped to infiltrate 400 spies into the Roosevelt administration. It helped to start organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, etc., and some of the massive social programs that have been crippling America ever since. So it was very influential in the day, but it still is. It had another burst during the Vietnam War era. It died away a little bit in the 90s, and now it's coming back. A few years ago it had 5,000 members. I estimate it's quite a few more now. They're consolidating, they've restarted the Young Communist League, they're active in virtually every state in the Union and very well infiltrated into the Democratic Party. The Communist Party is tied at the hip to the Democrats. They have people like Rick Nagin up in Ohio, who's a very senior Ohio Democrat, runs for public office on the Democrat ticket, very closely connected to Democrat politicians, but he's the head of the Communist Party in that state. Down in Texas, you've got Penny Shore, a bona fide Communist Party member who now serves as a Democrat in the Texas state legislature. The Communist Party USA is very much tied into the International Communist Network, which is still very powerful. It's no longer under Soviet leadership, though the Communist Party of the Russian Federation still plays a very big role. The Communist Party USA now really looks to the Communist Party of China for leadership, but it's also tied to the British Communist Party, the Canadian Communist Party, Brazilian Communist Party, Iraqi, Iranian, Cuban, of course, Vietnamese, very, very close to the Vietnamese Communist Party. It's part of the International Communist Network. It also participates in the World Peace Council, the old Soviet Front, World Federation of Trade Unions, and also the Women's International Democratic Federation and the World Federation of Democratic Youth. All communist fronts, international communist fronts. In 2017, the CPUSA sent several delegates to Sochi, Russia for an international youth conference organized by the World Federation of Democratic Youth to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, and the keynote speaker was, of course, Vladimir Putin. Democratic Socialists of America, the largest Marxist group in this country by far. They claim about 90,000 members. Many of them are just paper members that don't do much. There's probably a hardcore of about 15 to 20,000. But they're active in every state. They have people in state legislatures as Democrats, New Hampshire and Massachusetts and New York and Texas, Georgia and California and Arizona and many other states. There are 5 members of Congress who acknowledge their membership, and that's Jamal Bowman in New York, that's Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, who replaced John Conyers in Michigan, who was also a DSA member. They have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They also have Danny Davis, a longtime DSA member from Chicago, and Cori Bush from Missouri. Jerry Nadler, the head of the Judiciary Committee, the most powerful congressman in Congress, I believe, has been a member of Democratic Socialists of America, as has Jan Schakowsky, the longtime congresswoman from Chicago. They have about 6 people on the Chicago City Council now. There's several people in the Minneapolis City Council, the same in Milwaukee, the same in New York. They are taking over the Democratic Party in many locations around the country. DSA, by the way, gave us Obamacare. They were the driving force behind that. One of their members, Dr. Quentin Young, was Obama's physician and educated Obama into the ideas of socialized healthcare. Obama's immigration advisor, a man called Eliseo Medina, another member of Democratic Socialists of America, can largely claim credit for the open borders policies under the Obama and now Biden administrations. Then there's Liberation Road. It used to be called Freedom Road Socialist Organization. They changed their name a couple of years ago to avoid confusion with another organization called Freedom Road Socialist Organization. They were both once the same organization, but they split. But both sides kept the same organization, which was very confusing. So we're talking about Liberation Road here. It comes out of the Maoist movement of the 1960s and 70s. It's former members of the Communist Workers' Party, the League of Revolutionary Struggle, the Line of March, and other Maoist groups all came together in 1985 to unify the fractured Maoist movement. It is very close to the Chinese consulate. They have consulates in America. They have Liberation Road members living in the People's Republic of China. Some members are also active in the American-China Friendship Association, etc. They follow the Chinese line, but they don't like to be too obvious about it. They're also very strong in the Chinese Progressive Association of San Francisco. That's a big voter registration organization that really runs that town. The same Chinese Progressive Association in Boston, which is very influential in that town. Both those organizations are very close to Communist China.
We have a relationship with the Chinese embassy. Like, we actually have I've had to have various conversations with them about our positioning.
Now, the real Freedom Road Socialist Organization, the one that has kept the old name, they split from the other Freedom Road Socialist Organization in 1998. They had a journal called Fight Back, so many people call them the Fight Back faction. They were very strong in the Midwest. They were strong in Chicago and Wisconsin to a degree, and Madison, etc. Very much in Milwaukee and in Minneapolis. The Twin Cities is really their main headquarters. And so they have spread out from there. They have chapters in New York, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They have very heavily infiltrated Florida. They have chapters in Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa, and Tallahassee, very active in that state. They've also got chapters in Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, and Dallas, Phoenix, Arizona, a big chapter in Salt Lake City, San Jose, California, in the Bay Area, and also East LA, and a few smaller chapters in Connecticut and Colorado and Southern California, etc. They are pro-Chinese communists. They also support Putin's Russia, North Korea, Cuba, and Iran. They are street-level Maoist revolutionaries, very, very active, very willing to get into some pretty vigorous type of action on the streets. They were behind the big riots outside the Republican convention in Minneapolis in 2008, where petrol bombs were thrown. They tried to do the same thing in 2012, but a hurricane dampened that down. They were very active in Cleveland, Ohio, when Trump was inaugurated at the Republican convention then. They are street marching, fighting party.